are supported by Mombella's Italian Kitchen. Mombella's has been providing Waterloo Region with the wonders of fresh home-style Italian cooking since 2007. From succulent meatballs to classic cannoli, Mombella's creates flavorful frozen dishes that include traditional lasagnas, stuffed eggplant parmesan, and both chicken and plant-based veggie chili. Or take home Mombella's vegan tomato sauce or their gluten-free vegetarian lasagna made with roasted sweet potatoes, spinach, mozzarella, tomatoes, garlic, onions, and fresh basil. Do you like the salty tang of Parmesan cheese? How about picking up a 2-pack of Mombella's frozen chicken Parmesan, one of their most popular menu items, hand-breaded with marinara sauce and topped with mozzarella and Asiago cheeses. Along with pasta, lots of pasta, Mombella's is currently offering a select menu of their best sellers for takeout, like their famous toasted sandwiches and crispy wood-fired 12-inch thin-style pizzas. Mombella's must-try grilled cheese sandwich is made with 4 cheeses and toasted to perfection. And who doesn't love a BLT, especially with fresh ingredients on a toasted bun? Ona Tina Brisbane says Mombella's is incredibly grateful for the support of their community during this very challenging year. She's delighted that so many people and families are turning to foods like hers with quality and 0 preservatives. At Mombella's, food and family go hand in hand. And as the world begins trickling back to workplaces, Mombella's is available to provide catered lunches for business meetings and events. Drop by Mombella's at 160 Columbia Street West in Waterloo, Mondays through Fridays, 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. You're sure to find something to take home to the family or chow down on right away. Check them out online at mombellas.com or have their amazing food delivered. They can arrange this personalized for their customers. You'll see why customers keep coming back to Mombella's. And we bet that you'll keep going back too. Yummy! Bonn Park is supported by Yoda Leather. For nearly 35 years, Evangelos Patrikas has sold fine leather products at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market. Jackets, coats, gloves, belts, accessories. If you want good quality leather, you can find it at Yoda Leather. Evangelos says Yoda Leather's longevity is attributed to their loyal customers, some of whom have purchased 2 or 3 jackets from them over the years. Customers trust Yoda Leather for classic but fashionable and reliable outerwear pieces at good prices, like their men's double collar style, a top seller for 35 years, old school leather biker jackets, or women's coats with real fur trim. Yoda Leather specializes in men's and women's plus-size leather outerwear pieces and also carries brand names like David Moore's Canadian-designed leather coats that come in a variety of natural colors and sizes. Looking for a great leather vest? Yoda Leather has them in a variety of styles and different leather types to suit your desirable look and need in men and women's styles. Evangelos will tell you he's made many friends over the last 35 years selling leather garments. Yoda Leather was the first business his family opened at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market back in the 80s. Just down at the other end of the peddler's village is his daughter Stella, whose family runs A Taste of Greece, serving up delicious and traditional Mediterranean cuisine. Over in the main building is Olive Divine, run by Evangelos' wife Yoda, specializing in fine olive oils and balsamic vinegars. When a family stays in business this long, you know they are dedicated to quality and service. Yoda Leather is located at the Peddler's Village at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market on Thursdays and Saturdays. Go check it out. Bonn Park is supported by Full Circle Foods. At Full Circle Foods in downtown Kitchener, owners Sam and Julia believe in plant-based foods and zero-waste shopping. Their commitment to environmental sustainability guides their business, which offers locally sourced groceries and bulk foods, and they compost all of their food waste. They believe small independent businesses make socially and economically vibrant communities. Many of their suppliers are small-scale Ontario businesses like Fennings Organic Farm, For All Ice Cream, Eco Coffee, Millbank Cheese, Golden Hearth Bakery, and Henry's Tempeh. What's good for the environment is often what's good for you. Full Circle offers an array of organic foods, vegan offerings, and gluten-free products, most of which are free of the additives found in mass-produced foods. In the dairy section, you'll find butter, cheese, kefir, milk, sour cream, and yogurt. Over in the cooler, you'll find eggs, kombucha, hummus, spreads, dips, tofu, tempeh, and much more. Full Circle is making in-person shopping a safe and convenient experience with social distancing and capacity limits so the store is never crowded. There's a service counter for the bulk section where a staff person will scoop products for you. Full Circle is open 7 days a week with newly extended hours to serve you better. Full Circle Foods is located in downtown Kitchener at the intersection of Charles Street and Queen Street, just 1 block west from the Queen Ion Station. Or you can order online for curbside pickup at fullcirclefoods.ca. Follow them on Instagram at Full Circle Foods.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Rich Hrytzak
of Counterpoint Brewing. He's a brewmaster, he's a singer, he's just an all-round creative, talented guy. And you'll see how he brings it all together into Counterpoint Brewing.
And he takes his brewing very seriously. Started as a homebrew guy and then took his coveted sort of recipes to the next level with his partner, Graham, who we're going to talk to on the next episode.
I love beer talk, and this could have easily been a 3-hour episode for me.
It was hard to cut it off.
Yeah.
He's very interesting.
Yeah,
And just
sure.
a nice guy.
Yeah, super.
Here he is, Rich Hrytzak. Rich Hrytzak, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
I want to find out how you and Marshall met.
Yeah, so I think it was over a year ago now when Counterpoint first opened. Have I got that right?
Yeah, it was
Year and a
February of 2019.
Yeah, and someone we both know, a teacher at the KW Bilingual School, I think knows you maybe through racquetball or squash or...
Squash?
Yeah,
right?
squash.
Yeah, and he told me about Counterpoint, and I love craft beer and craft breweries. So I jumped at that opportunity, and I watch a show called On Tap on Rogers TV where they go around to different craft breweries. And I find it so fascinating, and I find that no matter how much I consume this information and how much I watch, beer making still seems incredibly complicated to me. And it's like endless. I feel like I could listen endlessly to it and still not fully understand that science and the art. So anyways, I'm excited to have Rich here. And the next episode we'll have Graham, the other half of Counterpoint Brewing. So,
Well, why don't you tell us the famous story about how you and Graham met?
Mm-hmm.
You can be on the upside of telling it since Graham's going to have to kind of fill in later.
Corroborate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, we both belong to the Kitchener Waterloo Racket Club. I forget if I have the name right, but yeah, the squash.
Is it like on Northfield?
No, it's the one. It's near the Kitchener Market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, downtown Kitchener, and we'd been playing squash for a number of years together, and of course every good squash game finishes with a couple of beers after to talk about the good hits and the bad hits and whatever. And I've been homebrewing for a long time, long before I joined the squash club. So of course I would bring my homebrew for the après ski, as it were. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's a mix of reactions you get from people when you say, "Hey, I've got a jug of my homebrew. Are you interested?" Yeah. You know, a lot of people will politely say, "Yeah, no thanks. I've had a homebrew. It's I don't want to go blind today," or or it's gonna taste like your bathtub or something. But it just takes one adventurous person to dig in and to confirm that it's delicious and fresh and whatever.
Natural, usually, right?
Absolutely, mm-hmm. yeah. And Graham was one of those people, and he was fascinated by the process, and so begun to ask questions. And as I gauged his interest, I opened up more about how I, without wanting to bore him, I opened up more about how I make it and how I come up with recipes and getting flavors in there and those kind of things, and yada yada yada. I taught him how to homebrew at his home.
Oh, that's great.
With his equipment, and that's the spark right there. A number of years went by of homebrew and squash games and getting together with friends to join in the homebrew experience. We just toyed around the idea over beers. It's just something you kind of throw out, like what if. I think a lot of great ideas come out from beers or cocktails or meals together, and sort of the ball was rolling, and somehow we ended up putting one idea after the next, one foot after the next.
So this all comes from that wonderful chilling out, hanging out conversation of what if we had the dream job? What if we actually did this?
Exactly.
And then when did it grow legs?
I think Graham was itchy for a project like this already, so he was primed. A previous job that I had was phasing out, so I actually had the opportunity to to pursue something else. I could my choices were either find someone else to employ me, or create my own job. So
You took the right fork in the road.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing I think that glued our idea together, and then it was just more beers and more chats, and let's just take another step. Let's just write a business plan for the hay of it. Let's just drive around town and look at different properties, different spaces for rent or lease, and those just add up into something, and then momentum's created.
So something I forgot to mention was my whole point of meeting Rich and Graham was to write an article for the Waterloo Chronicle about Counterpoint. And right off the bat, I was so interested in, first of all, the name of Counterpoint, and then how cohesive it all is, and how the names of your beers and everything about it plays into that word. So can you tell us all about that word Counterpoint?
Sure. Counterpoint is primarily a musical term. It would be a way of composing two or more melodies, so that you have a primary melody and a secondary supportive melody, where they can create beautiful music, beautiful harmony, but be organized enough that they don't conflict each other. In fact, they're constructive. And so you would hear this. Well, Bach is a famous user of counterpoint in a very complex and beautiful way. And so my background being quite musical, I thought it would be fitting to bring a musical influence to the brewery. And I think the term also describes well what, many things where there's opposing or constructive forces, and that sort of a mentality to create beers that have distinct parts that work together. Two personalities, Rich and Graham, distinct but working together. That seemed like a really cool, and it sounds cool too.
It does sound cool. I actually thought it was more towards squash. Maybe there was a counterpoint function there. I didn't realize that part for music, actually.
And you'll notice, who doesn't love music? Everyone has their kind of music, or their various styles of music, but I think everyone loves some kind of music. So it's very easy to appeal to a lot of people. A lot of people identify with, what bands do you listen to? That's a common way of introducing your personality, especially in formative years, high school, or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
defines who you are.
Exactly. So that was a natural way of keeping or categorizing beers, beer names, and reading, having that read well to the community.
I think your beer names are really beautiful in their simplicity. Like one's just called Duet, and then there's Duet 2.
Yeah, well, and that's a series. In fact, we love. There's so many varieties of hops, and each has their own distinct.
Hopperhead Road.
Yeah, that was. There you go.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And so our Duet series was a way of exploring two varieties at a time and see how they interact, and so. That was just a simple.
Rich, what all instruments do you play, and what's your music background and education?
Right. I dabble in a lot of instruments, but my primary mode of expression is singing. So my education, I've taken piano lessons, guitar lessons, violin, all kinds of trumpet. But voice is what I went to university for, and then studied privately with many great voice teachers, and then I've been employed professionally singing in choirs, opera companies, for the last 12 years now.
And how long has Counterpoint been
in the works?
In the works, yeah.
A good 3 years at least, yeah, for like serious.
And there's a lot of competition in town. Like, how are you finding we're finding with podcasting, as it's our new expression of artistic endeavor, I suppose. We're finding the community is very supportive, and there's a lot of camaraderie and sharing of information. We had somebody on a few weeks ago who's doing the exact same type of thing that we are. We had tons to talk about, done from the techie stuff and the nitty gritty details right out to like, what's your overall passion for this whole thing? And are you finding that's the same for breweries?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. the brewers community is incredibly supportive of itself, and any info you need, any help, any piece of gear, I think I could call any one of the breweries probably in Ontario and get help. I know there's so many breweries I've emailed just for a little bit of info. We had this problem, or we're curious about this ingredient. Even when we were starting and we needed to calibrate our fermenters. We needed a flow meter. We don't have a flow meter. They're quite expensive. And but one of the other breweries in town said, "Hey, I think Wellington has one." So we're just nobody, but we said, "Can we borrow a flow meter?" And they're like, "Yep, come on by." And it came with a 6-pack too.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, with Wellington, I saw this show on tap on Rogers, and the interesting thing they said was there's this guy with this really big beard, I think, who works there. Anyways,
Sounds like a brewer.
Yeah, and he said how because they were one of the first ones around here, I think, they want to see the other ones succeed. They want these types of breweries to have a good reputation overall. So that's why it's a benefit to actually help each other out. And I've heard a number lately, like there's a guy in town who is trying to get to every craft brewery in town. His name's Kyle. And I think he said there's like 300 of them in Ontario now.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think, and something that's cool about the craft beer scene, and probably many other foodie scenes, is we're all distinct. We all have an imprint. We all have a voice of what kind of flavors we're attracted to putting out there, and what kind of ingredients, and how do we formulate our beers, so that it's sure it's competition, but we all have a different flavor. We all have a different personality in our beers. So I think people want variety in what they're consuming, food, beverage, whatever, and now it's out there. So it's not a lot of overlap.
So what was your vision for your space? Like, I think your space is beautiful. It's got a huge piece of artwork in there.
Yeah.
And it's just very clean and white and minimal, and lots of sunlight coming in.
Well, the brewery was our brewery was quite a bit designed and planned at Arabella Park.
Yeah.
And
the old Vincenzo's location
that's
now.
right.
Such a great place to sit and chill out in Belmont Village.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think we were attracted to like that clean, open space that Arabella is, and we wanted something similar for a vibe for our place. And to be honest, I think we felt a little bit that the whole barn board or just rustic kind of dude den was kind of played out in the craft beer, craft tap room scene. So we wanted to try a more modern balance between feminine and masculine approach, and not be so dude centric. A few years ago, there's probably a view that craft beer is for white men with beards, and we didn't agree with that, and we don't agree with that, and we think that beer is for everyone, and everyone that tastes it will probably find something they like and then wonder what else to taste. So part of our design also was finding the balance point between for to make it inclusive for anyone that might want to come in and to feel comfortable with the decor and find some appealing beer.
Counterpoint does have a vision of inclusivity for your brewery, and that's something that you promote and something that's part of your outreach. Tell us about how that came about.
Well, I think that comes back to the bad stereotype of breweries, craft beer, tap rooms being, especially going all the way back to the homebrew community, being a primarily white, male, bearded, but somewhere between 25 and 40 dominated industry. So our approach, we wanted to dispel that myth and show that we all have taste buds, we all have noses, we all hunger for a good social time with a good beer.
I think back to some of the craft breweries I remember in the 90s. I think gave almost no consideration to the space that you're going into. Just it was pretty so bare bones. Right?
It might even have been pretty dirty.
Yeah, even like the bottles all like were had like the paper still kind of like a ghost-like paper
man.
thing on them, and get back in those days. So I think breweries have come a long, long way in presentation.
Yeah.
Hey, I absolutely love sour beers. How are sour beers made? And also, is it pronounced gose?
It's a German word, so it's gose.
Yeah. So
Yes, the Germans pronounce every letter.
tell me about sour beers and tell me about gose and what those two are.
Right. Sour beer is simply beer that tastes sour. So there's
There you go, Marshall.
And fruity and tangy and punchy and
there's
delicious.
It's broad how it's broad the flavors you can get into sour beer. I think humans are well versed in tasting sour things. We love. Just for starters, lemonade is loved by almost everyone, and tart cherries or sour keys. We love those kind of things. So in sour beer, you ask how it's made. So if you got 20 more minutes.
I think there's a word lactobacillus or something like
that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Marshall, you know more than I thought. You should be home brewing.
Yeah, let me get my notepad out.
Yeah.
Right. So traditionally, beer is just a quick overview. You soak barley in, it's actually sprouted barley. You soak that in hot water, strain off that liquid, boil it, add seasonings such as hops or anything else you might want to add, and cool it, add yeast. Boom, you've got beer. In sour beer, there's actually two ways of producing sour beer. One is a quick method. So much like yogurt would be made, where you add a culture to it, keep it at a temperature, and within 12, 24 hours, you've got yogurt. It's properly acidified. Same thing happens with beer. We add lactobacillus, a bacteria has a lot of in the news for happy gut health, and so we add that culture to the proto beer, the wort, and keep it at a temperature that enables it to work quickly, and within 24 hours, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, the acidity has dropped, and you can taste this stuff, and it's now properly sour. Then you continue the rest of the steps of boiling it and then cooling it back down, and then adding yeast and
sometimes sour beers can take a long time to make. I've noticed that something like a Block 3 brewing, they're working on a sour, but that may not be on their shelf until 6 months from now.
Yeah, and that's the other mode of making sour beer. You can go through the regular process of making beer without inoculating it with lactobacillus in the tank, in the boil tank, and you can add this bacteria at room temperature into a barrel, and it takes a while for then it to develop acidity at room temperature, but it will, and as a result, it'll probably make more complex, delicious flavors along the way. But with barrel aging, it can be a little bit of a gamble. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, so you have to taste often.
Then when you were doing home brewing, were you a purist? Were you buying barley and hops, or were you buying like kits that were ready? Because it sounds like maybe you've been I mean this with respect, like a nerd at this for a long time.
No, that's that's a badge of honor.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the first beer, quotes, air quotes, I made was a kit beer, and it was disgusting, probably, but
At the time, you were like, "Hey, this is great."
I made it. I served at a birthday party, I think, and told people to put a squeeze of lemon in it because it made it go down easier.
Was it in plastic green bottles? Like a 7-Up bottle?
You know what?
That's so old school.
I think I had to drink like 24 Grolsches just for the bottles.
Because they've got that great snapback lid.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the first one. After that, I'm pretty creative with many aspects of my life, music, cooking, gardening, whatever. But so as soon as I had that one success with that gross
It's like,
kit,
what can I do now?
how can I get better at this? Yeah. So that's when I started digging around the internet. And this is kind of the dark ages of homebrewing in Canada, because we didn't have like people down in your neighborhood homebrewing. This was like 2009. It was short finger brewing was not around. There were hardly any places to buy ingredients, but I quickly nerded out and try to find where to find proper ingredients.
And starting from scratch. So that's when the real pride for the craft of what it is starts to come in for you.
Yeah, having
Yeah.
full control over your process and recipe and all the ingredients you put in. That's the science and the art.
So I imagine that you and Graham are you're sourcing your materials now, or your ingredients, not materials, I suppose. You're sourcing your ingredients now, and you're getting those into your shop, and you're popping these open, and you're smelling them, and you're tasting them. And what else are you doing to test these different flavors before you get going?
Yeah, there's a few things. Like if it's the malt, the barley. I'll open a bag and just taste it. Just take it out and chew it. It's delicious. A snack on its own.
What would you compare it to that most people would have had?
Like breakfast cereal.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of toasty, nutty, grainy. Yeah. That tells you a little bit of what to expect out of the malt. But I'll brew a test batch. For us, a small batch would be a little 20-liter carboy, an actual proper homebrew batch.
Right.
But I'll single out one ingredient, brew a beer with that. It's not necessarily going to be a delicious beer, but it'll be informative for how to use that ingredient and how that will play with the other ingredients that we know. With hops, open the bag. You can give them a rub, sort of to warm the oils on your hand, and then you sniff your hand. And
what are you looking for when you're doing that sniff?
You want to know what aromas are there, without too many biases. You want to evaluate it for, does it smell citrusy? Does it smell tropical? Is it pineapple? Is it papaya? Is it catty, like cat pee? Is it, which can be pleasant in some ways? Is it, is it piney? And so that's a great way to evaluate it. But there's nothing like brewing a proper batch. So often some of our experiments or our test batches are just stuff we're selling anyway, which we have enough confidence that let's see what this will do, and our customers will probably be interested in tasting that too.
So the word notes that I'll read about a beer, and I'll say notes of vanilla, toffee, and bubblegum or something like that, right?
Sounds like a Belgian beer.
Yeah, exactly. But it's referring to what the barley is bringing to the beer. Is that right? Like that we're tasting? Or sorry, I was going to say, but at the same time, Counterpoint will have a beer with like a nice chili pepper bite to it, but you're actually using chili peppers, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
how's the difference between an ingredient like a chili pepper and then how you're achieving notes of flavors that clearly nobody's using bubblegum?
Right.
Or are they?
I mean, hey, the world is open for flavors in craft beer. Why not? Well, bubblegum, just to use as an example, barley gives a lot of flavors and aromas. Yeast is responsible for so many flavors and aromas as well. It's a huge contributor to the aroma profile of a beer.
And sorry, is it specifically a brewer's yeast?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It's the
Oh,
same.
that's what I was going to say, but I didn't
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
the word.
Well,
Yeah.
I just read your lips there. It's the same as bread yeast. That's the same. It's the same species of yeast. But so many of these strains of yeast have been reused for generations, and as you reuse it, it sort of morphs and adapts to your own brewery. And so that's why we have like thousands of strains of yeast, each which contributes its own flavor. So you can have one yeast that gives a very clean, crisp, malty profile, and another strain that will give you the bubble gum or the clovey or banana. And so you can have the same base beer, different yeasts, widely different beer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's how it's reacting and changing, and maybe what you're doing in your process. And
The temperature that you ferment it at, and just the yeast itself it metabolizes the sugars differently and spits out different compounds.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about stouts then, because
Yeah.
I love a really
me
great stout.
too.
How's a nice black, warm, frothy stout?
It's like having a
Me.
meal with a knife
Yeah.
and fork. I love it.
Yeah. Stouts are wonderful. The way to achieve a good stout, you primarily need black or roast barley. So if you take this barley that we've been talking about, the stuff that tastes like breakfast cereal, if you roast that like you would a coffee bean, to bring out different flavors, you're very nearly burning the barley, and so it's black and it's intense, and you probably don't want to eat that unless you're curious and nerdy like me.
So you've eaten it?
Oh yeah, yeah. But if you take a portion of this blackened barley and put it into the mix, that colors the beer dark and gives it that signature sort of nutty, roasty flavor.
Now, would you roast that barley, or would you source it roasted?
You could, but
it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay, curious.
Most brewers would be buying all of this stuff pre-roasted.
Because somebody's already doing a good job of that.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
How is it that you're able to set up and find customers within the first few months? Is it friends who are coming first?
I think that was a significant percentage was friends. We already had I had my social groups of all the musical things I do, as well as the squash club we had. That was a good, couple hundred people and their families.
Your opening was big, right?
It was big.
Yeah.
And we're known in the homebrew community. I know a lot of local homebrewers, so there was word about that. So it was largely just word of mouth that got us open.
And kind of like what we're doing, if you build it, they will come sort of thing. Like, what's happening over here? Let's check this out.
Yeah, with integrity and heart.
You're making a good product, a great product.
Yeah.
I always think it must be incredibly fun. You and Graham are sitting there, and you're putting together the next batch of beers, and you have I don't know if you still have a chalkboard where you write the names on. Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just that to me looks like the most fun ever, is coming up with the new beers and the new beer names.
Rich is laughing a lot. I think he's agreeing.
Well, and just that to me would be like an absolute, that would be the pure joy.
Are you hiring? Because Marshall seems super interested.
I often think to myself, I wish I had started sooner in my life.
Yeah, I know.
So send us some names for beers, because that's the blessing curse.
So you're making this beautiful thing. You know what you want to get across, but the picking of this gorgeous name.
Now you got to name it something witty or cool, or
he's your guy.
Yeah.
Is there one called Piccolo? Is it?
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Again, I think you've actually made it really difficult on yourself, because some breweries just kind of come up with goofy puns and stuff.
Yeah.
But you're such a classy.
I was also as tired as I was of tap rooms with all the barn board. I'm kind of, to a lesser extent, tired of beer puns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's a beer out there called #beerpun somewhere.
That's actually kind of funny.
Where do some names come from? I think is there a hop called Galaxy?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, like where are those names coming from?
I don't know. They're probably shooting darts at a board too.
Yeah.
Down in the hop lab. Yeah.
Down in the sorry, I thought that was so fun. Marshall, you really should submit some names, because you're good with that.
Well, you must have gone through your whole musical.
It's endless.
That's
man.
endless for sure.
Endless,
yeah.
So if you just go with song titles, there's 5 million choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go with band names. You go with musical instruments.
Musicians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Music hubs, like anything really.
I even named one late for band practice. Musical situations.
Yeah.
It's endless. We'll never run out of possibilities.
Rich, from what I can tell, so when we went into lockdown because of the pandemic, some breweries just kept rolling and closed the tap room.
And delivering. And,
yeah. It looks to me, tell me if I'm wrong, did Counterpoint stop having people in, and rather you were doing everything had to be like a pickup?
Yeah, we followed suit with what a lot of the other breweries were doing. I think we were, although we were essential service, thankfully, or
thank you, government.
Yeah. No one wants to see a population that's underserved with beer.
How hypocritical would that be if LCBO and beer store stayed open, but the craft breweries had to close?
Yeah,
there would have been an uprising for sure.
Yeah. So how did that go for you, Rich?
According to government guidelines, we did have to close our tap room, just like every other restaurant and bar had to. But luckily, we have a fantastic customer base. Even met some new customers during this time, and they still wanted to have our beer, and we were still making new beers, new flavors, and some old favorites. So thankfully, we already had our process for putting our beer into bottles and having that accessible. It was just a quick flip of the switch, and Graham really spearheaded this the online store that we created. And so it wasn't too much of a hurdle to get that flipped and just put instead of beers on tap, I'll put all of our beers into bottles, and we continue to get put beers into people's trunks.
I love to hear that, and I did find that in our KW community, people were incredible with supporting small business. I know everyone can see the Amazon boxes, at the end of the curb every week. People, they need what they need and want what they want, but I found that small businesses really did make the flip as quickly as they could because they had to. And those that had a system in place were, maybe ahead of the game. But I found our community to be so supportive and in supporting these businesses.
Yeah, we saw that too. We were so thankful and surprised that our sales were constant. We didn't have to take a hit. We didn't see anything extra, but we were thankfully surviving.
Surviving, yep.
Yeah.
I just interviewed Mark Logan of Encore Records for a magazine article, and he talked about how small businesses have this flexibility to adjust and pivot quickly. And that's what Encore did. Encore didn't have to worry about paying the rent because those were the first businesses I thought, oh no.
Same.
Right? But I hadn't thought of it this way, but he talked about how something big business can't do is they can't quickly adjust, So like Sunrise Records can't just.
Yeah.
Too many layers of management or whatever, yeah.
And how I thought about it, I thought, oh yeah, there is some huge advantages to being small. And hey, I'm interested in hearing about Graham and his learning curve. Like you were kind of having to take the lead on the brewing part first.
Right.
And he would have come along the way. And how does that work where you have two people going into it and the one has a better insight and knowledge into how it's all done? And is it like almost like probably taking a master's degree in brew making, right?
I don't know what his experience exactly was like. He'll fill you in, but he might not have had the technical know-how, but he certainly had he was already a good taster and already curious about what he's consuming. So that wasn't a huge leap for him to learn. I still do most of the brewing, but he's certainly capable of doing it too. And teaching the techniques was the big one, but wasn't difficult for someone that can already taste beer the right way and evaluate beer the right way and be critical about it and improve and take notes. So he was 3/4 of the way there.
How are you at letting go of your baby? I'm not good at this. So, you've got these processes, what's going to work and what's not going to work. And you've obviously got Graham to work with and people working for you. How are you at letting them take that beer baby and run with it sometimes?
Like to release the beer to the public?
Well, I mean, even during the process, right? Like when you're running your process and you think something's going to be going a certain way and somebody might take a different turn. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, it's just Graham and me,
Yeah.
so there's no one else to give a side eye to. But yeah, it is challenging. I can be a bit of a perfectionist with the beer, and I've certainly made all the mistakes, or there's many more to make, but I've made so many and learned, learned great lessons from these mistakes.
It's the only way we learn.
It is.
Like what can go wrong?
Oh my God.
Give us some stories.
Well, if you don't sanitize properly, you can get one of trillions of critters floating around the air, landing in the beer, and then having a heyday in this warm, sweet liquid that just is begging for bacteria. You can get some really gross flavors that way. Contamination is always an issue. If beer ferments too warm, it might the yeast reacts differently at different temperatures, just like humans do. And it'll get cranky or overexcited, and it'll throw off gross flavors there too. You can make wrong calculations, add too many hops, make the beer too bitter. Maybe you didn't make it bitter enough. Maybe one of your one of your lots of hops were too old and therefore didn't have the flavor impact. There's so much. That's just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any happy accidents where you've released it and kind of changed your direction?
I don't.
Or is it too controlled in that environment?
I do like to. Yeah, I love as much as I can controlling all the inputs and having the process meet what I can taste in my head before I've begun. Happy accidents. I think barrel aging can be a happy accident. When we put beer into barrels and it sits there for 6 months or a year, and we add different bacteria, different wild yeasts, Brettanomyces or Lactobacillus or another souring bacteria, Pediococcus. These can have unpredictable effects on the beer once it's in wood and it's breathing with oxygen and temperatures fluctuating, and maybe fruit flies are trying to get in there. So that's one where you're not 100% sure that the beer coming out is going to be amazing in 6 months, and you're just hoping, and you're doing the best you can to nurture it. But that when it does come out delicious, that's a time to just shake your head in wonder at the processes of magic.
So when I buy a 4-pack of a Bose Lug Tread, it's got this freshness scale on the side, right?
Okay.
I haven't noticed that, but it reminds me of like the Duracell battery. Like when you
Yeah,
press
it
the
is
thing.
like that.
Yeah.
It is like that.
I
And
never
it
noticed.
So it shows you the date it was brewed.
Okay.
And it shows you the months, right? And provided you keep it in a decent area, it doesn't have to be in the fridge necessarily, but doesn't say that. But it looks like somewhere around the 3rd and 4th month, maybe not so fresh, and then after 4 months, the color drops off. There's no.
Is it really a color change?
Yeah. Well, not a color change. It's like a green bar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But does it change, or is it just like here's when it was brewed and here's when you
Yeah,
drink
no, it's
it?
basically telling you that 3 or 4 months you should drink it
okay.
within 3 or 4 months.
We got excited. We thought it was maybe interactive.
No,
like-
sorry.
like
No, it's just a piece of paper on the label.
Like
And,
when the tractor turns
let
green,
down.
it's still good.
So what's happening to beer, unlike wine, like what's happening to beer over the span of 4 months? A beer like Lug
Oh
Tread.
yeah, I never thought about that. Does beer get better or worse? I don't know.
It's a curve.
Okay.
And it depends, like everything else. It depends on the beer style. Some beers on the early side, the beers that I would say are the most perishable are those that are the most hoppy, as in most fragrant and aromatic with fresh hops, especially dry hopped beer. Those aromas are quite volatile, and the tropical citrusy yumminess, juiciness will quickly morph into something more muted, piney even. And so those beers you want to drink right when they're released. You might have a month on the outside chance if they're kept cold before the beer's not going to go bad. It's just won't be as delicious or as the brewer intended. Then there's other beers that are like Lug Tread that can probably last a bit longer, and those beers, they might actually. I've noticed with our beers, some beers actually improve after a couple weeks of cold maturation. Just flavors kind of come together. It's like putting a soup in the fridge and coming back to it a few days later.
Oh, I do know that.
I've always wondered what the craft beer phenomenon has done to businesses. Like back in the 90s, I remember having neighbors who all they drank was Labatt OV. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
Budweiser. That was the only beer they were going to buy, and that went on for decades. That was
People
the only,
didn't know.
Yeah.
And there wasn't choice.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Unless it was somebody's weird homebrew that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
right?
You must feel like you're living and working in a fantastic place at a fantastic time.
This is the best time for beer.
Yeah.
For sure. The whole world has got the bug, and couple that with the internet and the easy sharing of knowledge that it just amplifies and accelerates beer love all around.
Your website makes it so tempting to just like you see those pictures of the beer and they look amazing. What are the beers you have on tap right now? Do you have 4 going at all times?
We have 4 taps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's running right now?
Oh geez, this pop quiz.
You can make it up. We're not there right now.
Hopperhead Road, you mentioned that earlier on. That's a nice double IPA. I forget which hops are in it, but there might be 6. I might have dumped 6 in there. Yeah.
Wait, with 6 hops and double, why is it a double?
It's a double IPA because it's it's a funny answer, but it's supposedly double strength.
Okay.
It's not. It's maybe 8.2%
That'll
alcohol.
do it. Yep.
Yeah. Compared to like a 6% for a single IPA. It's a funny distinction, but people just understand when they see double IPA, it's probably going to be between 8 and 9% and extra hoppy.
What else you running?
We've got I think we still have our lime after lime, our lemon lime gose. So that's brewed with Indian coriander for that nice sort of Fruit Loops aroma, sea salt, and lemon and lime peel. And that's a sour beer. Gose is a
Like
sour beer.
the first sour beer I had was like cucumber and coriander.
Oh,
It might have been, is it called Nickelbrook? Is that one brewery?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, at first I thought, well, I'm not sure if this is my taste, but you sure do grow accustomed to it quickly. And
Yeah.
Sounds refreshing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And two other beers. I think we have our brown ale, Counterpoint Brown. Really there's a one title beer title that didn't pull into the musical reference. And I think we have Duet 16, unless we have Virtual Jam Sesh. I think it's Virtual Jam Sesh. Virtual Jam Sesh. That's our oat IPA.
And what's different about an oat IPA? Because I've never had one.
Yeah, so we put a lot of oats into the mix instead of all barley, or a lot of modern IPAs do use oats anyway for the creaminess that it lends to the liquid after. But we just put a lot more in, so it really amplifies that.
I love the name.
Creamy. Yeah.
As we start to wind down, I want to ask you about what you see for the future of craft brewing in the next few years. I see things changing. Like, for example,
You're going to be working at Counterpoint.
Yeah. Block 3 has made a switch from bottles to cans. I'm not sure why that is.
We can recycle aluminum locally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
locally.
We've seen that for ourselves.
Yeah.
But,
I think it's cheaper to put into cans, and I think there's also a sexiness about cans.
Is there?
Wait, why is a can sexier than a bottle?
I don't know. Ask the internet. They all seem to think that a nice can of craft beer.
Well, the artwork translates well too. The cans are beautiful to look at.
Yeah, and I think they're more portable. You can get them on the water. Get them. You don't have to worry about glass breaking.
Right. Sorry, Marshall.
Yeah, sorry. The future of craft beer. Where do you think we're going with this?
I was just stalling on that big question.
I was talking to somebody at Waterloo Brewing last week, and they said the word craft beer is actually kind of a funny word at this point now. They said, "What is craft beer exactly?" And I think about that, and now, steam whistle still craft beer? I don't know. Yeah, can you tell? Can you see the trends and what's happening, what's changing around you, or are you kind of in there just doing your own thing and grinding?
Well, we do our own thing. Like, we do want to generate some of our own ideas, which is the hardest thing. It's so easy to be influenced by what you see and what you've drunk. But where it's going, I think. I mean, if I could give you a straight answer, then I think we could probably retire in 5 years with the millions we'll make from knowing where it's going.
Yeah.
But there always seems to be the swing of the pendulum and the thesis antithesis of things, and then subsequent synthesis of ideas. So, there was a trend for the ultra big, juicy, strong IPAs, and then it swung to session ales, nice, crisp. And then it was pilsners, and maybe pilsners are still in. They're all still delicious, but people then wanted nice, crisp, easygoing things. And then people want a dessert stout that drinks like a triple chocolate death by chocolate cake. So I think it's just sort of bouncing off of itself, and a brewer might have the idea that okay, well, now we've got dessert stouts. How about we have the appetizer stout, 2%, whatever, and create the other end of the pendulum on that.
My concern was that sour beers were going to come and go, but where do you think sour beers will be? Will they be around for like?
I think it's another feather in our hat it won't go away. It'll just continue to morph, and more flavors will be added into these things, and it'll be used in new ways. I have a hunch that more Norwegian yeasts will start making their way around. There's a Kvik or Kvik, or there's so many ways of saying it, but there's a Norwegian farmhouse strain, menu strains, that have another world of flavors that these yeasts produce, and that's been used a bunch. But I think there'll be more broad appeal, and I think more localized yeasts that sort of haven't been discovered yet will be found and used into beer and create even more obscure, different, fun flavors. And hops there will always be a new hop flavor.
I'm seeing your face light up. You're excited to experiment with all these new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ideas and the combining of ideas is the stuff.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.